So Frankie, so here we are on another episode of Across the Bar, but we're not necessarily across the bar. We're actually at a kind of a chef serving table here at BarChef, and thanks for letting us stop in.
Of course, yeah, welcome.
Yeah.
For sure. Thanks for
Before we get started on this very interesting cocktail, which watching you build this was pretty intriguing in the whole process. Let's talk a little bit about kind of how you got in the business. What was it that drew you to open BarChef?
You know, I was working in New York City with in a restaurant called Tocqueville as a food runner, actually. And one of my jobs was to finish the plates downstairs in the kitchen and working with the chefs. And I was just like, I was totally amazed by the passion of everyone that was on that team, and just the beautiful product that was going out of the kitchen there, and the reaction from the guests and things like that. And I was just like, for me, it was a turning point. In my life, I was just like, I need to do this for a living. I think I kind of stored a little bit of that away as far as taking that artistic approach to what's possible on the plate, and I kind of transferred that into my medium, which would be cocktails and liquids. So.
Right, absolutely. All right, so this first drink that you've presented, talk to me a little bit about this, the naming of this drink.
Yep, so the Night Blossom. So basically it was inspired by just walking in the park one night. It was really dark and I was walking my dog and I came across this tree that was beautifully lit. It was very dark, and this tree was just like the beautiful green leaves and blossoms on it, and I took a picture of it and then started working on it right away. And it was kind of the first cocktail that I created based on something that I saw that really kind of inspired me. And it's a very abstract expressionist approach to what you know the actual visual was, and I wanted to recreate that with a flavor profile similar to that, you know, with wood notes and bases of, you know, there's violet as well to accentuate that kind of blossom note quality, mint and chartreuse for that kind of vegetal quality of the leaves. You know, there's a chartreuse and cacao branch, which represents the actual tree itself. So it's very kind of, you know, expressionist as far as the approach to the
and quite an abstract drink in terms of the design itself.
Yeah.
Anything unique that jumps out on this drink that really kind of brings guests to like, wow, that's an aha moment? Other than that, I love the chocolate noodles and the preparation of that, but kind of that whole process there.
The flavor profile is really cool because it kind of has like a base note with you know, very kind of encapsulated you know, expressions of like wood, and you know, like there's a patchouli component in there as well. So it's very reminiscent of what it's trying to achieve, which is that picture.
How do you find people drink this?
You know, we always say when we're presenting it to have fun with it. There's no polite way to do it. I mean, there is, you know, as much alcohol content in this as you would find in a cocktail that would be going over the bars. So, you know, it's boozy for sure, but there's a really beautiful flavor profile to it, which is really interesting. So.
Wow. Okay, that's interesting. So you swap over. You now use the noodles.
Noodle components. There's fresh mint in there as well.
Very
so
nice.
You have a balsam fir and honey julienne. There's a violet julienne as well, and cacao and chartreuse.
Okay.
Yeah. So when it mixes in the mouth, all the components really work nicely together. The balsam fir is really interesting with the chocolate.
Yeah.
And there's a nice undertone of Islay Scotch as well, which is really good.
So really, a kind of a savory approach toward cocktails.
Absolutely, for sure.
And we've seen that as a trend, really coast to coast. We've covered spots in Seattle to New York, LA.
Okay.
And savory has been kind of a movement, but going this far into really kind of preparing a cocktail as really a fine dining dish.
Okay.
This is about as far as we've seen it go.
Awesome.
The idea behind this, and what is the response of guests when they come in? And
It's amazing. I mean, for me artistically, the idea is to challenge, that preconceived, conventional notion as what's possible with cocktails. I want to give the guests a new experience of what's possible with alcohol and liquid. And, it kind of raises the question is it a cocktail or is it a dish? Is it a cocktail because there's alcohol, or is it a dish because it's consumed with, chopsticks and a ramen spoon? And that's the idea.
I love this. This is great creativity, amazing flavors, an interesting feel too, because you get a chance to really kind of look at the different components in the drink itself.
And it builds, the flavor profile builds as you eat it, because you're mixing the components individually. Beautiful. Okay. So our mezcal white chocolate and eucalyptus. This technique as well, we do a snow basically, so we pulverize dry ice and then we very slowly pour a mixture of liquid into that, which essentially what we're doing right now, we're creating an aromatic component to the cocktail when it's presented. You get that note of the white chocolate and mezcal, the violet. So we have a white chocolate and pastis batonette, basically, which is a gel that we cut into the batonette shape. We hollow it out, we put violet fluid gel inside. There's a vanilla charcoal cream component, which is absolutely delicious. It's awesome.
This is the here.
When it pairs with the violet, it is amazing for sure. It's delicious. Then you have mint and chartreuse.
All right.
Yeah. There's a eucalyptus air, balsam fir cream, which is balsam fir bitter cream, a little bit of sugar.
Right.
We turn it again into a fluid gel. We garnish with grapefruit zest and fresh thyme. So I recommend the guests to start with the edible components individually. So just kind of interact with the components and go at it and try some things by themselves or together. And then when you consume the liquid with those components, the flavor profile of the cocktail essentially evolves. So.
Okay, so here's the white chocolate with a little bit of the vanilla.
Yeah. So the theme here is winter. It's very winter focused. It's kind of like, you have that chill of the eucalyptus, kind of menthol quality to it.
Right, I was going to say, just almost a licorice feel to it. What was the deciding factor of what type of ingredients to use to try to set this up?
So essentially the base tone of this cocktail is the white chocolate water, essentially, which is actually a fat washing technique. So we melt white chocolate in water proportionately. We put it in the fridge overnight, basically, and it gives us like a solidified puck of of fat essentially on top, cocoa butter, and we then strain it out, fine strain it out. We get this beautifully infused white chocolate water.
So we've got the shards in here. They kind of come together, and this starts to melt and kind of all infused together, which is kind of very similar to what you guys are doing in the back of house with all the different infusion products.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a transformative cocktail again. I mean, they're all ice components. So as you're sitting there from the guest perspective, you're sipping on it, the flavor profile evolves and changes as you're drinking it. And it's a cold cocktail. It's awesome. I love this drink.
Wow. So the aroma is really poignant.
Awesome. Yeah, that kind of vegetal smoky quality of the mezcal as the base note. I just love presenting drinks that, that the guests can build a relationship with over the course of, 15, 20 minutes that they're consuming it.
Spring thaw, and what are you activating or pouring in right now?
So we have a gin-based cocktail with sparkling wine, a chamomile syrup.
Okay.
It's being poured onto a spherified ice of Campari and vanilla, and there's a orange blossom, grapefruit, and vanilla air with fresh basil, a little bit of edible flower petals as well.
Okay.
And then when it's presented to the guest, we just take some water here and activate the aromatic component of the cocktail.
Ah, okay. So all of this coming right at us. Wow. Okay, so this is amazing.
Here we are. So, the idea and inspiration behind this cocktail is just an immersive environment. You have aromatics of grapefruit, cedar, soil, lilac.
Right. What's the process of being able to put, kind of the herbs and the moss and bringing in all these different the floral aspects of it.
So we essentially look at the service piece as part of the plate when it's being, when the order comes in. So they're essentially plated, put together to order each time. So each one's a little bit, different as far as, the chefs, they put a little bit of their own kind of take on where, things are positioned.
Okay.
But the idea is I always make an emphasis on the idea of it being essentially an amphitheater, a natural kind of immersive environment, so that when you do reach in to grab the glass, there's texture of greens and leaves and flowers on the hands.
Right.
Yeah, you just sip it as you would a normal cocktail,
Okay.
and then the ice sphere itself, over the course of 10 to 15 minutes, will start to melt. And we call it essentially a granité because it's a flavored ice, and it's proportioned accordingly with alcohol content and sugar content, so that the guest, after about 10 to 15 minutes, will be able to take the spoon there, break it apart, and eat it as a palate cleanser for the next drink.
This is fabulous.
It's delicious?
Yeah, it's great.
Awesome.
You've gone the direction of using chefs as your base for your team versus mixologists or bartenders.
Yep.
Obviously, constructing something like this, you need that kind of that headspace of, almost assembly.
Totally. It's a plate. It really is. I mean, we look at what we do in the same light that everything is always tasted before it goes out. We put as much passion and care into these dishes as a chef would a dish. So.
Yeah, I love this. This is a great job. Only a handful of places on the planet are doing these kind of things. Frankie, it's been great spending some time with you, and really kind of, you've taught me some things here that I have not seen before, and we've been covering food for 2 decades,
Thank you.
So pretty amazing stuff. Thanks for letting us stop in.
Thank you for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you.